Good morning and welcome to Crypto Charts Daily. This is the Crypto Charts Daily Report. Today is October 1st, 2025. It is the start of the new quarter. That means it was the quarterly close, the monthly candle close. So today's episode is going to be super important. We closed above support on many of these pairs, Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP. And now are we going to have some monthly retracement down to test support before we then rip up towards the end of the month? Or are we just going to rip to all-time highs right now? We're going to break all of this down and more in today's episode. So let's get right into it. And if you guys are unfamiliar with the daily report, we do in-depth technical analysis on the top 3 cryptos as well as 15 of the top altcoins. And on Monday, we do Meme Coin Mondays. So if that interests you, again, like, comment, subscribe. And today's episode is going to be so important because it is the monthly candle close. We're going to do top-down analysis from the quarterly close, so the 3-month time frame, the 3-month candle, down onto the 1-month candle chart, and down onto the daily time frame, of course. Because guys, today's daily candle close is going to be so important. Monthly direction starting out this new quarter. How are altcoins going to perform against Bitcoin? Are we going to see the average crypto RSI become oversold again here in the next coming weeks? Or will we just go into a frenzy here? Will we see the altcoins outperform Bitcoin, or will we see Bitcoin dominance increase this quarter? All right, enough yapping. Let's get right into the technical analysis. Starting off the analysis with the total crypto market cap, as you guys could see, we closed last quarter bullish above this $3.5 trillion resistance, and we're forming now new resistance at $4 trillion. So this quarter, I'd like to see a close above $4 trillion in market cap, or I'd like to see price retest that $4.9 trillion market cap. All right, guys, starting off with Bitcoin, as you guys could see on this 3-month candle here, we did close bullish, closing the quarter bullish, and now we will look for a push to those highs of 125, or we'll just go look for those lows that we've been looking for all of last quarter at 107. Looking at the monthly candle chart here, we do see that this candle closed below this previous month. And we are just going to mark this out as a liquidation. So we do need to see a close of this monthly candle above these equal highs here of 115.750 to then a continued push to highs. If this monthly candle ends up closing bearish though, we'll just see a push to those 107 lows. On the week, we do want to see price close above 115.400 to then go push up to these 124 highs. If we end up closing bearish below the lows of 111 though, we'll probably end up pushing down to those 107 lows. On the daily chart here, we did end up respecting this order block that changed character here. And we did say if we closed above this high here of 113.900, we then go see a push up to this high or test this higher time frame resistance. And now I'd like to see a close within this structure here within this order block, or a close above it to then go push for those 102 highs or 125 highs, excuse me. If we end up getting rejected from this order block today, obviously we'll look for bearish signals. Jumping onto the 4-hour, we can see how price respected that order block and close above that high that we marked out Monday. And now we do just want to look for a push past or a close above that 118 high. If we do end up getting rejected though, out of this order block, out of this resistance here, look for the push back down to 109. All right, Ethereum, the quarterly close way above support here. And it is possible that during the next few months, we retrace down to this 3,500 price level to then test that support. But this is a really bullish signal that we closed well above highs, well above this support. And we will just look for that retest of 3,500. Let's jump down on the lower time frames though. As we could see on this monthly time frame, we did get rejected at highs again. Price refuses to break this $4,800 high. And that does make sense because around 5,000 should be a psychological resistance level for people. But with this now bullish candle close here on Ethereum, we really need to see this monthly candle close above the highs of about $4,400. It's possible that we wick this and get rejected, but if we end up closing this monthly candle above $3,400, we'll just look for those push past that the push past that $5,000 high. But again, if we end up wicking this and then closing bearish on the month, we'll look for that test of $3,500. The weekly chart on Ethereum, it is testing that weekly order block, that weekly structure that broke past this resistance, hopefully flipped it support. And now we'll just look how price reacts here to this structure. If we end up closing below this low of $3,800, we'll definitely then go test this support. But if we get a close above here on the week of 45.50, we will look for a push to highs. Looking at the daily time frame, we did call out the rejection of this 4-hour order block and the retracement down into the support. So again, we'll just look for this low to break here for the test of this higher time frame support, or we'll just look for this higher time frame support here, this weekly order block, to then go push price past these $5,000 highs. XRP, guys, huge close for XRP here. As you guys could see, the quarter closed bullish, well above highs here, well above the wicks. We are just looking for that to flip support and push up to these highs. On the monthly candle chart here, you can see how we have huge resistance here at about $3. So we are just going to look for price to push and close above that $3 resistance over the next month. If we end up getting rejected though, look for the lows of 269 to break though, to then go test that 250 support. The weekly time frame, we could see how we have this huge break of structure. We closed above the highs and now we just accumulated on top of this support. And now again, we can mark this low as a sweep, and now we definitely want to see a close above the highs of $3.18 to then go push to new highs. If we end up closing the week though bearish below this resistance of 284, we'll look for price to break down to higher time frame support. And now finally on the daily time frame chart here, we are seeing how price is bouncing this hopefully support at 283, and now we want to see price close above these highs of about 294 on the day, to then go test these highs and test that higher time frame resistance that we got rejected from before. If this daily chart ends up wicking though, again, if we close back below the support of 283, it'll flip resistance and we'll look for the higher time frame support. All right, guys, looking at the total altcoin market cap, we are getting a bounce of that 2.7 level here, and we did close bullish above this previous quarter close, and now we will look for a push up to that 0.46 level. Unbelievable, guys. Starting off the altcoins with Binance Coin, unbelievable close, huge break of structure here and huge close above any sort of resistances that we had. We even closed above $1,000, closing the quarter at $1,009. That is insane. There is huge possibility obviously now for retracement back down to that $600 price level. That would just be healthy long term though. But let's jump down on the lower time frames to see if there is any continuation at this moment. Monthly candle close, again, super bullish. No, not much to analyze here. The weekly candle chart here is where we could start to do some analysis. As you guys can see, we have equal highs here. Price might wick these equal highs on the week and then push bearish. If we close above though these highs at about $1,000.50 though, we'll see continuation to new highs. But if we get rejected at that 1,050 price level, we'll look for the break of these lows of about 990 on the week. And now you could see on the daily time frame, we are getting rejected. Price is getting rejected out of this 4-hour order block here, and price is wicking these equal highs. So on this daily candle, if we close below this low at about $1,000, we'll look for the push and the test of this higher time frame support again. If we close though bullish above the high of 1,036, we'll look for a push the highs. Solana closing well above resistance, well above support here. And now in this monthly candle, we'll just look for a retest of that 188 zone. And if we see anything on the lower time frames, a push up to this higher time frames resistance at 260. On the monthly time frame, we can see resistance here at about 235, but price did close bullish, getting rejected out of that resistance, but if we see strength, just look for a continuation to that 260 resistance. And on the weekly chart here, we could see how price did get rejected from that high, but we are retesting that support now, and we'll just look for a continuation for a break past that 250 high. On the daily chart, we just want to see continuation and price continue to close bullish, again testing that high and this higher time frame support. If we end up getting rejected though and closing below this low of about 206, we'll look for the test of higher time frame support. Cardano, super interesting here on the quarterly chart, not closing above this equal high resistance here, but closing above our relative support here. So we will just look for a retest of this 77-cent zone for then a push up to this higher time frame resistance at about 120. But we do need to close this monthly candle above this equal high here at 84 cents. Excuse me, the last one I meant the quarterly close. Now on the monthly chart, we could see a lot of resistance, heavy sellers here. And we'll mark out our resistance here at about $1.07 and another resistance here at about 94 cents. We want to see some strong monthly closes here or a strong retest of this support. On the week, we can see how price is just accumulating above the support. And now on the daily chart, we did say on Monday, we want to see a close above this high. So if we get a close above this high of about 83 cents today, we'll look for a push to these highs and a push to test resistance. If we get rejected though and wick to the downside, we'll just look for a continued test of the support. Chainlink, huge close above that support of $17 and huge close above these equal highs here at about $20. So we will just look for continued strength here over this quarter to about $26. Of course, there is room for retracement though to then go test that support at $17. Jumping down on the monthly time frame, we can see resistance here at about $25. So we want to see a close above this high of about $23 on this month. And if we end up closing bearish below $20, we'll look for the test of that support at $17. But we definitely want to see a test of this resistance here at 26 and a close above that high. On the weekly chart here, we could see how this resistance pushed price down, and now we definitely want to see price close above this relative flip here. Price close bullish above 22,483, and then look for the test of that resistance at 26 cents. If we close bearish though, just look for the continued test of this order block here at this support at $17. And on Monday, we did say we'd like to see how price reacts to this high if we get wicked at this imbalance fill or how we react to this higher time frame resistance. So we will just look for continued daily closes bullish to then go push to highs, or we'll look for price to close below these lows of $20 for the push to support. Stellar Lumens, huge close above those equal highs of 33 cents, but we did close below that resistance of 40 cents and those equal highs here at about 40 cents. So it's very important over this quarter, over the next 3 months, to close bullish above 40 cents to then go continue to highs here. And if we get rejected at 40 cents again and close a bearish quarterly candle, will definitely go down and test higher time frame support. On the month here, you could see how price wicked and rejected these equal highs at 40 cents. So again, we're just going to look to see how these monthly, weekly, and daily closes react to this 40-cent price level. If we do get rejected, we're going to look for the lows to break of about 35 cents. On our weekly close here, it would be very good if this was a sweep and we closed above this high of 41 cents. For then our break and retest of that 40 cents price level to then go test these highs. And now on the lower time frames, we did say we want to see a close above this high of about 38 cents on Monday. And now this daily candle could close above that, and we would like to see it close above 40 cents, obviously. But if we get wicked out and rejected at this high today, we'll look for price to break that 35 cent level. Avalanche, huge quarterly close above the high and above support here at $22, but we did get wicked and rejected here at about $35. So we definitely want to see price here in the next quarter close above this high of $35. On the month here, we did close above highs. And again, we're just going to look for price to then go test that $35 resistance. On the weekly chart, you could see how it's important to close above this equal high of about $33 to then go see continuation to highs. But we can retrace now to this beautiful structure that we left. Looks like we already did fill some imbalance here, but we could definitely go retest the structure again and our higher time frame support. Now on the day, you can see how we filled imbalance, and now price is just looking for continuation, and we'll look to see how price reacts to these highs over the next few days. Hedra here, HBAR, everybody's super bullish on HBAR, but we did get rejected here. And this quarterly close did close below the resistance of about 23 cents. And we did wick out and get rejected at these equal highs of about 26 cents. So it's super important that we do close the next quarter above this resistance of about 23 cents or above the high of 26 cents. If we get rejected and close bearish again below this resistance of 23 cents, I'd say price is bound to make a bigger retracement. On the month here, you could see price getting rejected at equal highs of 24 cents and the equal highs of 30 cents. So price is just downtrending, and we'll look for continued tests of this resistance of 23 cents or the test of this order block or some sort of support. On the week is when it starts to get a little more bullish here. We could see a bigger change of character, and price is now testing that support. Now we could retrace further, but again, I'd look for price to test this resistance, hopefully closing above it and closing above these 25-cent highs to then go test higher time frame resistance. And like on Monday, we said, we are just looking for the retest of that resistance now, because we did close below that break of structure there. So we are just downtrending. Litecoin, the quarter closing above this resistance of 105, but we did still wick the highs here, the equal highs of about 108. So there is a bigger resistance at play here. But if we do end up closing bullish on this quarterly candle, we'll look for the test of that higher time frame resistance at 144. If we close bearish below this and wick out and get rejected here again, though, we'll just look for the higher time frame support. The monthly candles here, you could see how they're testing support, and they're also getting rejected at highs. So we are just accumulating within this range, and we'd like to see closes above the highs or below the lows for direction here. On the week, we could see this beautiful support and resistance flip here, and we are just testing that support. So we'll look for the break of the highs of about 120 to then go test this higher time frame resistance. And on the day, you could see how price is retesting that support, but we do have a break to the downside, so it is important to break those highs of about 120. If we get rejected at those highs of 120, we'll just go down to test support again. If we flip this support and close below it, it'll flip resistance, and we'll look for the higher time frame resistance. Polkadot, not much to say on the quarterly close here. We are just closing below, though, this resistance. So again, we need to close above this resistance here of about $4 to then go push price up to higher time frame resistance and test these highs. But, unless you're value investing, not financial advice, there's not much going on here. On the monthly chart, though, you can see how price is just getting rejected at these lows. It could be explosive, obviously. Price has been trying to break above this resistance, and when it does, we'll look for the explosive blow off to the higher time frame resistance. Uniswap closing above that support. So again, we'll look for the test of the support and then the push to highs. It does look like we did get rejected last quarter, though, at these highs. So we'll jump down on the lower time frames and check it out. Yeah, we will just look for a retest of the support of about $6. And if the month could close above $9.50, that would be a bullish sign to then go test these highs. ONDO Finance, we did get rejected here at $1. So we will look for this quarterly close above $1 to then go test highs. But if we continue to wick out and get rejected at $1, we'll go test that higher time frame support of 66 cents. And it does seem like we're just ranging between $1 and 60 cents. So $1 or 60 cents being the bottom of our range and $1 being about the top. And we are, we are just looking for that close above for then the break and retest, but we are not bullish until we get a close above $1 on the monthly or weekly charts. On the monthly time frame, you can see how we are just getting rejected every month out of that dollar resistance. On the weekly chart, you could see how this range between $1 and 60 cents becomes even more clear. And on the daily chart, the lows of about 86 cents are still holding. So we'll just look to see how price reacts now to $1. And if we break this low of 85 cents, we'll look for price to then go test support. Polygon closing the month bullish, but we did get rejected at that 30-cent resistance. So again, unless you're value investing, there's not much going on unless we get that break and retest of that 30 cents zone. And over the next few months, we'll just look to see how price reacts to that 30-cent zone. FLR flare here, it is making its way up in market cap, so I am going to analyze it today. A little special one for you guys. Comment Crypto Charts Daily in the comments below if you made it this far and appreciate this in-depth analysis. Flare getting rejected at these equal highs here of about 2.5 cents. So it is important that we close above 2.5 cents on this quarter to then go test highs. Algorand unfortunately closing below that resistance of about 22 cents here and getting rejected at those equal highs of 33 cents. So closing well below many resistance zones here. And over the next quarter, we'll just look to see how it reacts to these resistance zones. The monthly candle did close bearish below this resistance. So now I'd like to see this month close above this resistance of 22 cents for our break and retest. But if we continue to close bearish, we'll just look for the test of that higher time frame support. On the week, same thing. We want to see a close above 22 cent. And on the daily chart, you could see how we have a break of structure here. We are just downtrending, and we're just going to look for price to retest that resistance of 22 cents for then the push to the lows of about 20 cents. Quant getting rejected out of that 117 resistance here and creating equal highs of at about 105 to 107. So we definitely want to see a close above those equal highs over the next few months at about 107. If we close bearish, we'll obviously look for the test of this higher time frame support and these lows here. The monthly chart, you could see how we are just closing below that resistance of 117. So if we close the month above 117, we'll look for a push to highs and our higher time frame resistance. And if we continue closing bearish, we'll just look for that higher time frame support to be tested. On the week, you could see how lows are respecting, and we're just going to look to see how we test this order block and this resistance. On Monday, we did say if we break above this 105 high, we'll look for the test of this resistance, and we are testing now this 105 high. If we continue to wick and get rejected though, we'll just look for the break of lows. IOTA, huge rejection on the quarter here, but we did still end up closing a little bullish. Again, we'll look for price to push up to test that higher time frame resistance. But if we close bearish, obviously we'll look for the test of these lows. On the month, we could see how price is just reacting to this order block. And again, we'll look for price to close bullish above like 20 cents to then go push up to this higher time frame resistance. On the week, same thing, just look to see how price reacts to this support here of about 16 cents. And XDC, guys, on the quarter did close above its resistance. So this is now support at 6 cents, and we have been calling for the test of the 6 cents support to then go push up to about 10 cents. Well, guys, that concludes Wednesday's Well, guys, that concludes Wednesday's episode of the Crypto Charts Daily Report. That was probably the most important episode I've ever done. Again, these are huge closes above or below resistances for many of the cryptos that you guys own. And these closes could give the outlook for the next few quarters, for the next few months. Hundreds of percent swings. So share this with your friends. Like if you enjoyed this type of in-depth analysis, and subscribe, of course, so you never miss a market movement here. We go in depth. I put in a ton of work, guys, so please subscribe. It helps me out a ton. And again, guys, we do these reports every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And again, guys, if you're not paying attention to these reports because technical analysis is boring, you're gonna get wrecked. You are gonna get wrecked. Anyway, guys, enjoy the afternoon, and I'll see you Friday. Peace out.